no extra tax and no trade regulation. And lastly, for the small countries, the European Union gave an unfair advantage of trade negotiation. For example, imagine if a small country like Hungary and a giant like India sit at the negotiation table. Now you tell me, who will have an upper hand in this negotiation? India has a population of 1.4 billion, while Hungary's population is only 10 million. So if we sit down for a bilateral trade agreement, we could tell Hungary that we will give your automobile industry an access to a population of 1.4 billion if you reduce your import taxes by 25%. But Hungary will have to decrease the import duty on Indian automobile by 50%. Why? Because we are a bigger country and we can exploit a small country because we are giving them access to a much bigger market. But you know what, guys? Here's where the European Union came in, and they said instead of an individual country bargaining with India, the entire European Union will sit down with India to negotiate. So now, the European Union is sitting down as a single entity with a population of 447 million people. And this makes them so powerful that while India has a population of 1.4 billion people and a per capita income of $2,700, EU as an entity comes with a population of 450 million people and a per capita income of $52,000. So now do you realize when European Union as a giant entity sits at the negotiation table with India, the EU has a much better bargaining power against India, even though India has a population of 1.4 billion. So this is such a fantastic arrangement, isn't it? Every country gets better negotiation power, better citizen freedom, better relationship with European powers, and most importantly, you get market access to a much wider population as compared to your own country. Then the question is, why did UK exit the European Union? Well, out of the many reasons, here are three of the most important reasons why the United Kingdom exited the European Union. The first reason was that UK thought the European Union benefited more from UK than UK benefited from the European Union. For example, between 2012 to 2016, the average volume of fish caught by the European Union fishermen in British waters was 760,000 tons per year. Whereas the British fishermen caught only 90,000 tons of fish in the EU waters, which was 8 times less than European Union. Similarly, in 2013, UK's gross contribution to the European Union budget was around 17 billion euros, whereas they received back only 6.31 billion euros. Now, if you look at the net contribution of UK, it turns out to be 10.76 billion euros, right? So, if you see, there was a huge disparity in budget contributions among the European Union states. So, this is the reason why the Brits felt like they were being robbed by the European Union. How ironical, isn't it? For a change, the Brits felt like they were being robbed. If you know what I mean, that is hilarious. The second thing that bothered them was immigration. So while the European Union expanded, several countries like Poland, Czech Republic and Hungary got in. And because citizens could move across borders, many people started coming from less developed countries into the United Kingdom. And foreign population almost doubled from 5.3 million in 2004 to over 9.5 million people in 2021, which was about 12% of the entire population of UK. So the Brits felt worried about foreigners entering their land. Again, how ironical, isn't it? The Brits were worried about foreigners coming into their country. This drastically increased strain on public services and housing, lowered wages of workers because of oversupply of labor, and eventually it decreased job opportunities for their own citizens. This was the third problem that UK had. And lastly, the United Kingdom felt that they could easily negotiate better deals with countries like India rather than the European Union doing it for them. These are the reasons why they decided to conduct a referendum to opt out of the European Union. So after the referendum of 50-48, finally, Brexit happened on 23rd of June 2016. But, as it turns out, as of now, things are not going well for UK at all. And this is what the situation in UK looks like.
The picture across England is not much better.
Food prices soared 13.6% in the last 12 months, and record housing costs are piling pressure on UK households.
So the question over here is, what on earth went wrong with Brexit and why is UK in such a terrible situation? Well, the first major hit that the country faced was trade. If you look at the stats, you will realize that European Union was one of UK's largest trading partners. As of 2022, While UK exports to EU accounted for 42% of all their exports, UK imports from the European Union was 48% of all UK imports. So you can imagine how much the UK depended on the European Union for trade. But after Brexit, the UK was no longer a part of the customs union, which allowed them the flow of goods and services among the EU countries without any import duty or customs duty. So after Brexit, UK goods got taxed while moving to every country in the European Union. So to solve this problem, UK thought they could simply sign something called the Free Trade Agreement. For those who don't know, FTA or Free Trade Agreement is when two or more countries agree to trade with each other with no taxes or very less taxes. So the UK thought they could sign the free trade agreement with the European Union countries and they could easily trade with each other without immigrants, without contribution to the EU fund, and without allowing other European countries to exploit the UK. But you know what, guys? Here's where the UK economy faced a big problem. And this is a problem that even India is facing in 2024. So the question is, what is this problem? Ladies and gentlemen, this problem is that UK and India both are not manufacturing driven economies, we are service driven export economies. So we don't make most of our money by exporting products, but by exporting our services. While the UK exports financial services, India exports IT services. So the question over here is, why is a service driven economy so dangerous, and why is manufacturing better for India and UK right now? Well, there are three simple reasons. Number one, manufacturing industries can provide way more employment as compared to service industries, and this is for both skilled as well as unskilled people. For example, while the IT industry constitutes 7.5% of our GDP, the textile industry barely accounts for 2.3% of our GDP. But if you look at the employment that they provide, the numbers are staggering. On the outside, if I asked you which sector would recruit more people, what would you say? Of course, the IT industry employs more people, right? Because their contribution is almost 3 times as much as the textile sector. But you know what, guys? While the IT services industry of India employs 5.43 million people, our textile industry employs 45 million people. And while the IT industry mostly recruits only skilled people, the textile industry employs millions of unskilled people along with the skilled people. So, the manufacturing sector provides way more employment opportunities as compared to the service sector. Secondly, while the service sector is prone to more economic shocks, the manufacturing sector is relatively shock-proof. For example, during the 2008 recession, while the financial services industry and the marketing services took a massive hit, companies like Nestle, Procter & Gamble and Unilever, they were not as badly affected, because while the people could cut down their spending on financial and marketing services, they could not cut down on essentials like razors, detergents and baby foods. And lastly, while manufacturing is easily scalable to increase exports, scaling a service company is very difficult. For example, if I have to increase the production of iPhones from 10,000 to 20,000 units, I can recruit